And welcome back to the program. I'm your host, Paddy Daly, and as advertised yesterday, an invite to the Liberal Member of Parliament representing the folks in Humberside, Barbever, calling from Ottawa, Gerry Byrne. Hello, Gerry, you're on the air.
How are you, Paddy?
Top shelf today, sir. How about you?
Number one.
Muskrat Falls, let's go.
Yeah, listen, today is the day, November 30th, that the Conservatives have formally and officially defaulted on their promise to underwrite the $6.2 billion Muskrat Falls hydroelectric project with a federal loan guarantee. Paddy, you may recall, the Prime Minister, of course, made this in no uncertain terms. The loan guarantee was part of the election campaign. Hyped it for several weeks. Not much happened after the campaign until Minister Joe Oliver, Federal Natural Resources Minister, Joe Oliver, a name that not too many people are familiar with because he's a brand new rookie MP, never served a day in the House of Commons, but is now in the federal cabinet as Natural Resources Minister. He came to St. John's mid-August and said, we're still on, but we're going to outsource the analysis of the Muskrat Falls hydroelectric project and the loan guarantee. Right. We're going to take it from 24 Sussex Drive and we're going to move it to Bay Street. We're going to get some investment bankers. We're going to hire some investment bankers from Bay Street, Toronto, and they're going to do the analysis of this project. But we're still in, he said.
And what's happened?
Well, he said that they'd have a final answer by today, right, November 30th, and still no federal loan guarantee.
Which is pathetic. We didn't need a Bay Street banker to tell us that co-signing was a good deal. If they can confirm the business model makes sense, then this should be a layup for Parliament, period. Party stripe removed.
There are 2,200 people who work in the Department of Finance in Ottawa.
Right.
2,200 financial professionals, certified financial professionals, chartered accountants, investment counselors and others that do this, and that's what they're paid to do. It just strikes me that, there is, I think, a specific purpose in mind here. It is to shift what the final decision is from Sussex Drive to Bay Street. To say, well, listen, we would have liked to help out, but, the analysis didn't come out. We didn't do the analysis. It was Bay Street. Mm-hmm. It was the bankers of Bay Street who did the analysis. But, there is talk, Paddy, of this financial equivalent to a loan guarantee.
Right.
Now, what that is, in a nutshell, is if the federal government were to offer a loan guarantee, it would enable the project proponents, Nalcor and Emera from Nova Scotia, to be able to go into the bond markets, the debt markets, and be able to get loans at a cheaper interest rate, a lower interest rate, than if they were to not have a federal loan guarantee with all the power and might that comes with the federal government guarantee. Mm-hmm. So they recommend, what they suggest is that financial equivalent is worth about $200 million in saved borrowing costs. So the federal government is saying now that, well, we may not give a loan guarantee, but what we might do is give a financial equivalent. Well, a loan guarantee, Paddy, doesn't cost the federal government a dime.
Not a dime.
Not a penny, as long as the project remains technically and economically viable and doesn't go into default. A financial equivalent costs $200 million or more in a direct cash payment from the federal government, which is fine, but what it does do, in addition to that, is it raises, why would the federal government want to spend $200 million in a direct cash payment rather than not pay a dime in just a paper transaction? It's because they obviously have serious questions about what they found during the analysis of the project, what is the actual level of risk, what is the actual risk of default, and they don't want nothing to do with it.
Or, that's one thing that could have happened, Gerry, but it's also possible that political pressure, let's say from the province of Quebec, could also play a significant role, possibly because we don't know anything about what they found in the so-called independent analysis, is that's just as likely as anything they may have found as a problem with Muskrat Falls.
No, you know what, if it was political pressure from Quebec, the $200 million would be just as unacceptable as the loan guarantee.
Right.
In actual fact, I would argue that it's probably more unacceptable because, it's actual $200 million in cash that the federal government is going to pay out to the project,
as opposed to a stroke of a pen.
As a stroke of a pen.
Right.
So listen. Just because you're paranoid doesn't mean you're not being followed. Listen, I'm not trying to be paranoid here. I'm not trying to suggest there's a conspiracy, but you'd have to argue that if you actually had faith and trust in the overall viability of the project, based on the fact that you've been engaged in a year-long analysis of the project, that if what you found said, basically gave you a thumbs up, this is good to go, we don't see, we don't have any, there's a very, very limited, minuscule chance that this loan guarantee would ever be called upon, so let's stroke of the pen right now.
But why wouldn't they just come out and say that would they have to walk away based on the analysis that says it's not technically or economically viable? I mean, that's a fair question.
That's the honest thing to do. It's breaking a promise. When the Prime Minister made his promise in May of 2000.
They've got no problem with that, though, Gerry.
What's that?
They have no problem with that. History shows quite clearly they have no problem with that.
All over again, which is why I'm failing to understand, what it is that's up, the government has got up its sleeve. If it's going to break its promise, rather than just string everybody along until everybody gets bored with this, because the people in Newfoundland and Labrador are not going to get bored with this, contrary to the normal strategies of the Prime Minister and his party. We want to know the answer. Do you have faith in this project? Yes or no? You're the only ones who actually have the analysis, the data, what is actually truly behind the scenes in all of this. You're the only ones that have this information. Nobody else has it except for the province of Newfoundland itself. Why don't you tell us straight up, you've been delaying and delaying and delaying this, you've been putting off this answer, just treat us like adults, treat us like, Canadian citizens, tell us.
We just sent an email.
Or are you going to come up and fulfill your promise?
We have once again sent an email to our representative in Cabinet, Mr. Panashaway, to see if he can answer that question and others today, Gerry. But we appreciate your update and take on the federal government's inactivity on this Muskrat Falls file. So thank you very much for your time today, and go get him in the house.
Patty, one last update on the EI issue.
Yep.
I see that Diane Finley is saying the delays in EI processing is not caused by shutting down 100 offices across the country. It's not by laying off all the staff that she's done.
Right.
It's caused because the people at Service Canada are doing a work to rule campaign. I can tell you this, Patty, the people at Service Canada have been working double time with no overtime pay, trying to get the checks out to people so that they can have something for Christmas, so they can meet their mortgage payments, their car payments, and put food on the table. Shame, shame, shame on Diane Finley for lying to people to suggest that there's a work to rule campaign when she shut down 100 offices across the country and she's laid off people right, left, and center. And who's the blame on? It's on the people at Service Canada. God bless us all.
I don't buy it for a minute, and generally Diane Finley has the most obscene, obscure reasons and rationale for a variety of things. Gerry, good talking to you, and stay in touch.
All the best.
Same to you.